What if I told you that one of the most powerful cancer-fighting, inflammation-destroying compounds on the planet isn't sitting in a pharmacy, it's sitting in your kitchen cabinet? And what if I told you that for seniors specifically, drinking just 1 cup of a very particular tea every single night before bed could trigger a chain reaction inside your body that works while you sleep, quietly dismantling cancer cells, cooling chronic inflammation, and essentially giving your immune system a full reset? I know that sounds almost too good to be true, but stay with me because today I'm going to walk you through the actual science, the studies, the biology, the cellular mechanics, and by the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why this works and exactly what you need to do tonight. My name is Dr. Thomas Morgan, and if you're new here, welcome. This channel is dedicated to giving you real science-backed health information, the kind of information that used to only live inside medical journals and conference rooms. So let's get into it, because what I'm about to share with you could genuinely change your health trajectory. First, let me ask you something. Have you ever wondered why chronic disease skyrockets after the age of 60? Why is it that people who were perfectly healthy in their 40s and 50s suddenly find themselves dealing with arthritis, fatigue, diabetes, heart disease, or even cancer in their 60s and 70s? It is not just bad luck, it is biology, and the central villain in this story has a name. It's called inflammaging. That's a term researchers coined by combining the words inflammation and aging, and it describes a very specific phenomenon that happens inside every human body as we get older. Essentially, as you age, your immune system starts to lose its precision. Instead of launching a targeted attack against real threats, it begins to fire off low-grade inflammatory signals almost constantly, even when there's nothing to fight. And this background noise of inflammation, this slow, silent burn happening in your tissues, your blood vessels, your organs, is now understood by scientists to be the foundational driver of nearly every chronic disease we associate with aging, including cancer. Now, here's where it gets really important. Research published in the journal Nature Reviews Immunology has shown that this chronic low-grade inflammation doesn't just damage healthy tissue over time. It actually creates what scientists call a tumor-permissive microenvironment. In plain English, that means persistent inflammation essentially sets up a neighborhood inside your body where cancer cells feel comfortable growing and multiplying. The inflammation suppresses certain immune responses that would normally catch and destroy those abnormal cells before they become tumors. So when we talk about fighting cancer, we cannot separate that conversation from the conversation about inflammation. They are the same conversation, and this is precisely why what happens during your sleep is so critically important, especially for seniors. Most people don't realize this, but nighttime is when your body does its most aggressive cellular repair work. During deep sleep, your glymphatic system, which is essentially your brain's waste-clearing network, flushes out toxic proteins. Your immune system ramps up the production of cytokines, which are chemical messengers that coordinate the attack against damaged and abnormal cells. Your body temperature and cortisol levels drop, which signals cells to enter repair mode. And your DNA repair enzymes become far more active, going through your cells and correcting the kind of genetic mutations that, left unchecked, can become cancerous over time. So, here's the critical question. What if you could enhance all of those processes? What if right before you went to sleep, you gave your body a concentrated dose of specific bioactive compounds that amplify your immune surveillance, reduce inflammatory signaling, and supercharge the cellular cleanup process that happens while you dream? That is exactly what this tea does, and the tea I'm talking about is a specific preparation of turmeric and ginger, combined in a very particular way that most people have never heard of, with 2 additional ingredients that are absolutely essential to making the whole thing work. Now, I want to be clear before I go further. This is not magic. This is chemistry. This is pharmacology. These are molecules, curcumin, gingerols, shoguls, piperine, and healthy fats that interact with specific receptors and signaling pathways inside your cells. And the research behind these interactions is not thin. There are over 3,000 peer-reviewed published studies on curcumin alone. Let me say that again, over 3,000. It is one of the most extensively studied natural compounds in the history of medicine, and yet most doctors barely mention it to their patients. That is something I genuinely believe needs to change. Let's talk about curcumin first, because this is the star of the show. Curcumin is the primary active polyphenol found in turmeric root, the orange-yellow spice that's been central to Ayurvedic medicine for over 5,000 years. When researchers began isolating and studying curcumin in the laboratory, what they found was almost shocking. This molecule appears to interfere with cancer at virtually every stage of its development. It inhibits something called NF-κB. That's nuclear factor kappa B, which is essentially a master switch for inflammation in the human body. When NF-κB is chronically activated, which it frequently is in aging bodies, it promotes tumor growth, helps cancer cells evade the immune system, and enables them to spread to other tissues. Curcumin has been shown in multiple in vitro and animal studies to suppress NF-κB activity significantly, but it doesn't stop there. Curcumin also activates something called apoptosis in cancer cells, and apoptosis is the biological term for programmed cell death. Every normal, healthy cell in your body has a built-in self-destruct mechanism that gets triggered when the cell is damaged beyond repair or starts behaving abnormally. Cancer cells, however, find ways to disable that mechanism. They essentially become immortal, refusing to die even when they're supposed to. What curcumin appears to do is reactivate those self-destruct pathways, specifically in cancer cells, while leaving healthy cells unharmed. A study published in the journal Anti-Cancer Research found that curcumin induced apoptosis in multiple cancer cell lines, including breast, colon, and prostate cancers. This is remarkable, and the fact that it targets cancer cells selectively, unlike chemotherapy, which damages healthy tissue too, is why researchers around the world are now working on curcumin-based pharmaceutical derivatives. Now here is the problem, and this is crucial. If you've ever just sprinkled turmeric on your food and hoped for the best, I have to be honest with you, it doesn't work that well that way. Curcumin on its own is notoriously difficult for the human body to absorb. Scientists call this poor bioavailability. You can consume it, and most of it will pass right through your digestive system without ever making it into your bloodstream at meaningful concentrations. That is why this tea preparation is so specific and why the 2 additional ingredients I mentioned are not optional. They are what makes this work. The first is black pepper, just a small pinch, literally a 4 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper contains a compound called piperine, and piperine has been shown in published research to enhance the bioavailability of curcumin by up to 2,000%. 2,000%. That is not a typo. A study in the journal Planta Medica demonstrated this effect clearly. Piperine inhibits certain enzymes in the gut and liver that would otherwise break curcumin down before it can be absorbed. When you combine turmeric with black pepper, you transform a compound that your body can barely absorb into one that floods your bloodstream and reaches your tissues in therapeutic concentrations. The second essential ingredient is a healthy fat. Specifically, I recommend a teaspoon of coconut oil or a small amount of whole milk if you prefer dairy. Here's the science behind that. Curcumin is fat-soluble. That means it dissolves in fat, not water. When you consume it alongside a dietary fat, it gets packaged into something called micelles in your digestive tract. Tiny fat droplets that allow the curcumin molecules to be carried across the intestinal wall and into the lymphatic system, and from there directly into your circulation. Without fat, you lose a significant portion of the curcumin's potency. With fat, you maximize it. Now let's talk about the ginger component, because ginger is not just here for flavor. Ginger root contains a family of compounds called gingerols and shoguls, and these are seriously powerful anti-inflammatory and anti-cancer agents in their own right. Research published in the British Journal of Nutrition demonstrated that 6-gingerol, one of the primary active compounds in fresh ginger, inhibited the growth and spread of breast cancer cells in laboratory models. Other studies have shown that gingerols and shoguls can interfere with the STAT3 signaling pathway, which is another critical mechanism that many types of cancer cells use to survive and proliferate. What I find particularly compelling is that ginger and turmeric appear to have a synergistic effect, meaning they work better together than either does alone. Both compounds target inflammatory pathways, but they do so through partially different mechanisms. When you combine them, you essentially get a broader, more comprehensive anti-inflammatory action. It's like the difference between throwing a single punch and hitting something with a combination. The combined effect is greater than the sum of the parts. Now, I want to talk specifically to the seniors watching this because this matters for you in a particular way. After the age of 65, your body's natural antioxidant defenses begin to decline noticeably. Enzymes like superoxide, dismutase, and catalase, which are your body's frontline defense against something called oxidative stress, become less efficient. Oxidative stress is the accumulation of unstable molecules called free radicals that damage cell membranes, proteins, and most dangerously DNA. And DNA damage, especially in the mitochondria, the energy-producing organelles in your cells, is now strongly linked to both the aging process itself and the development of cancer. Curcumin and ginger are both potent antioxidants, and together they provide a level of free radical neutralization that can meaningfully slow this oxidative damage process. There's also the matter of sleep quality, which is deeply connected to everything we've been talking about. A fascinating study from the University of Rochester found that the glymphatic system, your brain's waste disposal network, is nearly 10 times more active during sleep than during waking hours. And one of the waste products it clears is amyloid beta, the toxic protein associated with Alzheimer's disease. But here's what's less widely known. Chronic inflammation actively disrupts deep sleep architecture. It fragments your sleep cycles, reduces the time you spend in the deep restorative stages, and therefore impairs the very cleanup processes your brain depends on. By drinking this anti-inflammatory tea at night, you are potentially improving the quality of your sleep at the same time as you're providing your body with cancer-fighting compounds, a double benefit that compounds over time. Let me give you the recipe right now, because I want to make sure this is practical for you. To make this tea, you'll bring 2 cups of water to a gentle simmer, not a rolling boil, because excessive heat can degrade some of the active compounds. Add 1 teaspoon of ground turmeric or a 1 piece of freshly grated turmeric root, which I prefer because the fresh root contains a broader spectrum of beneficial compounds. Add half a teaspoon of freshly grated ginger root or 1/4 teaspoon of ground ginger powder. Add 1/4 teaspoon of freshly ground black pepper. This is non-negotiable. Stir in 1 teaspoon of coconut oil, or you can add a small splash of whole milk and stir thoroughly. Let this simmer gently for about 8 to 10 minutes. Then strain it into your cup. Some people add a small amount of raw honey for taste, which is perfectly fine as raw honey contains its own beneficial enzymes and antimicrobial properties. Drink this about 30 to 45 minutes before bed every night. The consistency matters enormously here. These compounds are not like pharmaceutical drugs that produce acute, immediate effects. They work by gradually modulating your inflammatory pathways and shifting the biochemical environment in your body over weeks and months. Research suggests that meaningful changes in inflammatory biomarkers, things like C-reactive protein, interleukin-6, and TNF-alpha, typically begin to appear after 4 to 8 weeks of consistent daily consumption. So commit to this for at least 60 days before you judge whether it's working. A couple of important cautions because I am a doctor and I have a responsibility to be complete with you if you're on blood-thinning medications like Warfarin. Speak with your physician before adding turmeric regularly to your routine because curcumin can have mild antiplatelet effects. Similarly, if you have gallstones or gallbladder disease, high-dose seized turmeric may not be appropriate for you. And of course, this tea is a powerful health-supporting tool, but it is not a replacement for regular cancer screenings, medical checkups, or any treatment your doctor has prescribed. I want to be crystal clear about that. This is a complement to good medical care, not a substitute for it. Here is the bigger picture I want to leave you with. We are living in a remarkable moment in medicine where we are beginning to understand that the gap between food and medicine is much narrower than we once thought. The molecules in the foods and plants we've used for thousands of years are now being validated by modern science. And the evidence is telling us that daily consistent choices about what we put into our bodies have profound consequences for our long-term health. Consequences that play out at the cellular and genetic level. For seniors, this is not just about adding years to your life. It's about adding quality to those years. Staying sharp, staying mobile, staying free from the chronic disease burden that robs so many people of their vitality in their later decades. 1 cup of tea every night. That is a remarkably small investment for the potential return it offers. The science is there, the studies are there, now the choice is yours. If you found this video valuable, and I genuinely believe this information could make a real difference for you or someone you love, please hit that like button right now. It takes 1 second, and it tells YouTube to share this with more people who need to hear it. If you haven't subscribed yet, I want to invite you to join this community. Every week, I bring you research-backed, doctor-explained health information that is designed to help you live longer, feel better, and make smarter decisions about your health. And if you want to go even deeper on this topic, my next video covers 5 more nighttime habits that work synergistically with this tea to further reduce your cancer risk. You will not want to miss it. Click the subscribe button, turn on the notification bell, and I will see you in the next one. Take care of yourselves.